Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. I'm Richard, this is Lap of the World, and our mission today is to try and figure out what my NSX is whining about. So if you follow the Lap of the World Instagram account, and yes, there is a Lap of the World Instagram account, and yes, I am making a concerted effort to be better about utilizing these story functions so you guys can kind of keep track of what I'm up to in real time if you don't want to wait till the Tuesday or Friday when I would normally publish a video. So if that sounds cool, give it a follow. But if you follow that, you would know a couple of things. One, that I have just gotten back from a casual trip up to Nelson Ledge's road racing course in northern Ohio. That was a 1,100 mile round trip with another 100 track miles on top of that. And after that, the NSX developed a little bit of a whine, which I demonstrated in a video that I posted to an Instagram story. After I came off track from the last session that I ran, I noticed a little bit of a whine, and it honestly sounded like that. It sounded like speaker whine, like when you have a bad ground, you get that kind of electrical whine that comes through the speakers that varies with engine RPM, and this was kind of doing that. In fact, in the video, you'll see me kind of reach under the dash and mess with something, and that's me toggling my master speaker power switch on and off that I've got jury-rigged in there to work around the dead head unit, if you guys remember that saga. But yeah, so then the whine though persisted, and then on further inspection, I found that it was coming from kind of this right rear quadrant. And I have some suspicions, but we're going to investigate that today. And honestly, this is kind of, not that I ever want to like have stuff go wrong on these trips, but this is mission accomplished and validation of squeezing this track event in a little over a month before we're going to need to drive cross country to get to Portland for Expo 2021. Because if I'm going to break the car, I'd rather break it at least on the East Coast, if not within, roadside assistance towing distance from my house. In Ohio, I know I at least have a support network there, either NSX owners or a very good NSX shop, not too far south from where I was. So that's what we're going to try and hunt down, though, and see what's going on. Like I said, we have suspicions. The common, when I posted that video and said, hey, what do you think of this? I think the common reply matches my own suspicion that it's probably the alternator. It's possible I over-tightened the belt and have put too much stress on the bearings or something like that, following my reassembly post-major service this spring. But to figure this out definitively, we're going to have to do a little work with an automotive stethoscope here. So follow me over to the car and we'll see what we can't figure out. So step one, we've put the garage door up and we're going to fire the car up and make sure that it is still doing the thing. And then we will poke and prod around with our stethoscope here and see if we can't isolate where the noise is coming from. For those who like to play the betting game, your lineup is as follows. The odds-on favorite is the alternator. The best case scenario cost-wise is going to be the AC idler pulley, and the worst case scenario would be the water pump. So, fingers crossed, toes crossed, etc., etc. I'm going to turn the car on and we're going to prodding around. If you do this, you do just want to be mindful that there's a lot of spinning reciprocating stuff down here, and the belts will eat your finger and pretty much take it off if you're not careful with what you're doing. So with that in mind, let's get started. So I can still hear it, but it is distinctly more subdued than it was when I parked the car after I got back yesterday. So we may let it warm up a little bit. I'll probably poke around a little bit just to see, because I can still hear it, but it's faint. If I can't isolate it with the noise that it's making, I'll take it around the block and then see if it becomes any more apparent. Oh wait, no, okay. Yeah, as it's warming up, it's definitely getting a little more pronounced. So I'm gonna go ahead and start poking around and see what I can find. So having distinctly isolated the sound down to the alternator, what I'm doing now, or what I'm in the middle of doing now as I think to push record again, is I'm going to loosen it up a smidge so there's less belt tension and see if that changes things. You know, it's probably, if it's starting to make a noise like that, it's probably further gone than I'm willing to trust it to go cross country with. But I just want to see because I'm curious, so that's what I'm doing. I'll pick you back up here in a second when I restart and tell you what results I get. So that hasn't changed very much noise-wise, but the belt didn't squeal at all, which probably unfortunately confirms the suspicion that I may have over-tightened it. Again, it didn't feel all that, it didn't feel wire taut. But, you know, again, I did not tighten it with a gauge or anything, which may have been my downfall. Then again, I also need to look up and see how old this alternator was. So I will do that now and then give you a report. So having narrowed the culprit down to the alternator, I went away and did a little bit of research to get you the information on how long this one lasted. Now, I bought this one from Rare Electrical. They listed it as allegedly new. Let's be realistic, it was probably a remanufacture, and it has lasted then, if I bought it in March of 2018, and it's just worn out. It's a little bit over 3 years, and that's around 30,000 miles of use. Obviously, my kind of use, there's lots of heat and RPM, which are kind of both the enemy of bearing wear. Also, the car being as old as it is and having some other, you know, I've been kind of into and around the electrical system a little bit as well. So there's chance that I have some parasitic load, although the battery itself, like if I just leave the car and you know, the battery itself it'll be fine for a week and a half in a climate controlled area before I would feel the need to put it on a trickle charge. So there's no parasitic draw, at least not when the car is not off. But you know, with these old cars and you know, most of it being aluminum, grounding is always a question. So what I've done is I went ahead and also I just ordered a rebuilt, another reman alternator from, this time Rock Auto they were the lowest bidder in this case, and they have a remanufactured Denso unit that is on the way to me right now. They had the cheapest rather in stock. If you want to wait a little bit, I think Summit Racing was 20 bucks cheaper, but I'm going to put that in the car just so I'm good to go. And then I'll probably go about rebuilding this one, and I'll make a video out of that. I just need to need to get the parts for it. I think really, from what I've read, and please comment down below if you are an expert in this area, but by and large, it seems like what I should be shopping for are good bearings and brushes. I don't know that much else wears out on an alternator. It's a fairly simple device, but it is kind of important, and it does work pretty hard depending on how much extra electrical stuff that you're running on the car or how bad your grounding situation is. Now, when I replace this, I will I'm probably going to go in and put some supplemental grounding. There's actually a place on the alternator bracket for a grounding strap that in early production cars was the primary grounding strap. In these later model cars, they moved it to the valve cover. but also now having had my valve covers coated, although there was a space left for there so you get good contact there. They're also magnesium. I don't know how conductive that is. I assume it probably is, but running one directly from the alternator bracket, which is, I think it's steel or iron or something. It's heavy. I'm going to run that directly out to somewhere on the chassis, maybe, and through a pretty thick gauge wire, just to get a little bit of supplemental grounding there. But fortunately, though, that's where we're going to leave it for today. I was, had every possible appendage crossed, that it was going to be what I thought it was. Obviously could have gotten out maybe, actually, I don't know. I don't think it was any cheaper to replace the, if you just replace the bearings on the idler pulley for the air conditioner, that would be cheaper. But the actual pulley, if you order it new from Acura, is probably more than what I paid for a reman alternator. So this is probably the cheapest possible scenario, and one that I will have resolved by this coming Thursday, I think, unless there's some delay in the shipping. But that's where we have it today. Fortunately, again, nice, another 1,200 mile round trip, kind of test run, dry run for our cross country trip to Expo, and continuing on our road to 300,000 miles in the NSX. I've considered doing a little bit more with that as we kind of approach that literal milestone. So keep an eye out again on Instagram. I'll probably have some stuff I'll post on there as I try and figure out a little bit of DIY graphic design, which is kind of something I've been trying to work on learning. But thanks for joining me today. I hope you found the video kind of informative as far as the quick method of troubleshooting there. If you don't have an automotive stethoscope and your car makes weird noises, that can be a very quick and efficient way to isolate them or at least rule some things out. But yeah. Successful trip to Nelson Ledges. That went great. I appreciate big thumbs up to Auto Interest and the track for a far better than expected venue and a very smoothly run event. But you'll see more on that as those videos come out in the next week and a half. So look out for those. Subscribe if you're not already. Thanks for watching. Until next time, I'm Richard. This is Lap of the World, and I will see you all in the next video, if not at the track.